Is there a LeBron James, Michael Jordan of slang? Like, what's the best slang word of all time?
I will say, I don't know about favorite, but the fact that cool has lasted so long to mean great and good is a remarkable thing. Cool to mean like, he's a cool dude. That still exists, but it's still slangy. It's not really standard yet, if it ever will be. That's an amazing thing when so many other words have burnt out in the same amount of time.
Why has cool stayed?
Utility. Absolute utility. Again, utterly ordinary word, but absolute utility. I always get asked this, so I'm going to preempt this question in case it's on your list. What makes a slang word successful? Because I think that's what's coming up in your mind, is the funny ones don't last. The ones that are jokey or cute or hilarious or that make you giggle at first, they tend not to be the ones that have that last the longest. It's the ones that are a little more boring and have more utility. The ones that fill a linguistic hole or a gap in the language, those are the ones that endure. And you might say, well, why is that? It's because the flashy ones burn out faster. They get borrowed more quickly outside of the group that they were created by and for, and more easily abused, of course, by the press and by advertising and show up in movies and in the mouths of people that they don't belong to, or it's clear they're being co-opted by script writers and co-opted by adults who are using for irony or in order to make fun of the people that originally said them.
Is slang necessary for us, or is it kind of just something that happens? Like, does this serve a fundamental function?
No, it's not necessary, but yes, it does serve a fundamental function for us. So slang is a little bit of a release valve from the constraints of formal language. So the formal language is put upon us by the power structures. Formal language belongs to the classes that have power, authority, strength, whether that's economic power or educational power or the power of governments, that sort of thing. And what slang does is it kind of represents this underpower, the power of, say, people who will one day have power but don't now, or they have the power of fashion or power of trends. So one of the long argued maybe isn't quite the right way to phrase it, but long discussed debates in lexicography, which is the art and craft of making dictionaries, and in linguistics is what is slang. And one of the generally understood and agreed upon definitions is that it's this informal expression, kind of a pushback against formal language. And so the reason you need that pushback is you have to take an alternate stance against that power. So yes, humans, we're a resistant people. We dislike power. We want it, and when we get it, we abuse it, but we dislike it if we don't have it. And slang is a way of resisting that power.
Do you think most people realize that, though?
I don't think they consciously realize it, no. But I think unconsciously they realize it. The way that you, when you're a teenager, and it's not just teens who use slang, by the way. We use it our whole lives, but it tends to be it's a little old-fashioned when we get older. But the way that you might use slang in front of your parents, kind of coyly, knowing that you might be slipping something by them, that's a kind of power. That's a kind of power to say something in front of someone else and get away with it, where they don't quite realize what you're saying.
I have reached the age now where I kind of don't like certain slang a little bit. Like, oh, I need to know what that means. It
Old man yells at cloud.
Right. I am the old man yelling at the cloud. Is that kind of a natural reaction that people have then as they get older? Like, oh, what are you saying? What does this mean?
It tends to be that when you find yourself annoyed by jargon or with slang, it's because it's not for you. It's not yours. And you're annoyed with it. It's like trying on somebody else's clothes that don't fit.
Do we have to adopt these, though, to some degree?
Yes, that's a really good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. We do have to adopt these. Otherwise, you find yourself stuck, say, in the 1820s, refusing to keep up with the language. And you do find that in American culture. For example, some of the very conservative homeschoolers will only use dictionaries that stopped being updated well before the internet age. And so they're stuck.
When we look at slang, though, are we coming up with a fundamentally new ways to identify things? Like, no, this new slang identifies a new concept in our realities? Or are we just coming up with a new name for something that they used to have? Like, the immediate example I think of is my 7-year-old says sus, but we just used to call it shady. Like, are these new concepts generally, or is this like, nope, you're just calling it something different?
It's a lot of new synonyms for old things. That's part of it. So yeah, sus or shady or sketchy, and yeah, it's lots of words for the old things. But there's new stuff representing new ideas. I think about how blue can I be in your podcast?
As far as you want to go.
I think about a term like big dick energy. They said Anthony Bourdain had big dick energy. This idea that a man, through his not just his physical stance, but his personal points of view and the aura that he carries when he walks into a room and somebody that you can find believable and suspect that the way that he treats the people around him with kindness has big dick energy. So it's not really about his sexual prowess. It's about his perspective on the world and the way that he treats others. There's so much more in this term than just those 3 words. This is something that I don't think we had a synonym before.
Is there a pattern to Gen Z slang? Is there a pattern at all to the current slang that we have?
All of their stuff seems to be about taking the surface that they've been given and make it work. And by that I mean the surface being all these commercial tools they've been given, all these commercial systems they've been given, all this commerce that is plastered around them. They take it as given and then try to subvert it within its own parameters. They accept the framework. And so I think some of their language is about that as well. They accept the framework of the language they're given. So sure, there's a ton of TikTok slang, tons of it, but it's all within the framework of TikTok. It doesn't really leave TikTok.
It's very specific to the thing that they are
doing. Yeah, it's specific to that universe. If TikTok failed tomorrow, that language would go poof. It doesn't have much residue outside TikTok. It's walled gardens where all it's going to take is for one storm for that garden to go poof, and it will have left no impact upon the language as a whole. Almost none.
Let's do the easy ones, right? What is your personal favorite slang word?
I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do with this answer when you get it? That's my question back at you.
I always find it fascinating to know what somebody who really knows about something thinks is the best. Because to me, that's kind of like knowing like the inside track. Like, who do the people who play in the NFL really think is the best player? Not the person that the media analysts push forward. So I always think of it as being like, what's the interesting, like, what do the people who really know think?
All right. There's a term, I don't know how slangy it is, but there's a term that I came across in an old newspaper once that I'm fond of. And it's one politician called another one a revolving bastard, because he was a son of a bitch no matter which way you looked at him.